I'm pleased to be here today with Rupert Pearce, CEO of Inmarsat, and Marc Eisenberg, CEO of ORBCOMM, to talk about the next phase of their long-term strategic partnership, including their groundbreaking global IoT service offering called OGX, which they announced earlier this week. ORBCOMM and Inmarsat have been working together successfully for nearly a decade to leverage their synergies and create opportunities to accelerate growth in the satellite IoT market. Today, we'll be talking about what ORBCOMM and Inmarsat have been able to achieve together over the last decade, as well as what the enhanced partnership looks like, what customers will see with the new OGX offerings, how they will be distributed, as well as what the impact will be on the global IoT industry. So thank you, Marc. Thank you, Rupert. I'll get started. So the first question really, can you talk about how this partnership's been successful to date and how much growth there's been for IDP since the beginning of ORBCOMM and Inmarsat's collaboration? Marc, to you, maybe?
Sure. Since we purchased Skywave in 2015, the subscribers that are using that platform from ORBCOMM's perspective, because Inmarsat has their own base of subscribers, it's roughly doubled. So it's taken off very nicely, and we continue to find new markets, new channels to market where we could be successful. We've drastically taken cost and improved the product portfolio, the hardware that surrounds the business. We've created new tools for developers to create products on the business, and we're just really starting to deploy dual mode applications as well. So I think as I kind of look back at IDP, Skywave has certainly been one of our best acquisitions to date, and the partnership with Inmarsat from ORBCOMM's perspective is about as close and as good as it gets.
Just to add into that, I think we're equally thrilled at Inmarsat with the last half dozen years of collaboration between Inmarsat and ORBCOMM. First of all, our subscriber count has gone up as well. It's gone up by a factor of 10 since we started working hand in hand with ORBCOMM. So that's success by any means. But I also think it's been very exciting from the perspective of innovation and diversification of opportunities as well, as we've started to see the emergence of IoT as a massive global sector redefining the global economy. And we've been delighted at the innovation that ORBCOMM has brought over the last few years. And today's announcement indicates we're just about to set off on another generation of innovation alongside ORBCOMM as well, which is tremendously exciting. And for us, I guess you can't talk about the last half dozen years without also talking about our decision to invest in the Inmarsat 6 series, which extends the life of our global L-band capabilities, the foundation for Marc and ORBCOMM's capabilities for another generation, at least into the mid-2030s, which is tremendously exciting. It remains a unique asset. We've reinvested in that to provide global coverage and resiliency. We've also built in the Inmarsat 6s more capabilities to allow IoT to continue to grow in the unique and highly tailored ways that ORBCOMM has been responsible for over the last few years, and no doubt will be responsible for in the next few years as well.
Thank you. So can you provide an overview of the expanded and enhanced agreement? What are customers going to see going forward?
This agreement is 2 years in the making, and it started out as a extension of IDP, and then the two parties took a step back to say, all right, we're gonna sign an extension through a minimum of 2035. So let's just take a deep breath and understand not just what customers are buying today, but what customers really want, over the next 20 years. How can we keep up with the customer's imagination and, some of the assets that we're going to be monitoring that may not even exist today. We really kind of slowed down that process and took a deep dive into, how we can expand on this network. There are great things about IDP in terms of, what a reliable service it is and what you can do with hardware and just a couple of seconds of latency, over satellite, which is basically unheard of. But as you look at OGX and the future, we're kind of dreaming of a world of far higher bandwidth capabilities or bigger message packets, and also imagining what we could do around battery power to in our world, battery is everything, right? You're trying to make your iPad last for a day on a charge. I got to figure out how to track a trailer for 10 years. So battery is very important. So we've also as a group have kind of searched out ways to maximize battery power, creating tracking devices that'll last 3 years on a AA battery. So we've gone in a couple different directions, and as you kind of look at the satellite industry, they've gone in a completely different direction. If you look at some of these constellations, you're looking at hardware that costs thousands of dollars and looking to transmit gigabytes of data. That's not IoT. That's not IoT. So as you look at this next generation ORBCOMM platform, how can you transmit a megabyte of data with a $100 communicator? That's the dream. And no one's been able to do that. That does not exist today. It does not exist anywhere today, but it will. And that's kind of how we looked at it. So you start with the product you want to build, and then you start working through all the satellite resources and what Inmarsat's going to have to do to support that network. And literally, this contract starts with a bunch of engineers dreaming of what the service looks like before it gets to the business folks, kind of contemplating what the agreement looks like.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I mean, for many years, we've been very, very happy with ORBCOMM's innovation around IDP, not just at the hardware and software and solutions level, but also the way they're distributing that product into new markets for new applications and solutions in very customer intimate ways. That history is now moving forward in a very exciting way with OGX. As Marcus said, it's amplifying the product set in the IoT world. It's adding an ultra low end device with incredibly long life, which is hugely important, as Mark explained. It's adding at the top end something that's 40 times the speed of IDP, to which IDP installations can be upgraded over the air. So that's very exciting as well for the high-end stuff. And we mustn't forget that these products are also part of a suite of L-band products in which Inmarsat can also contribute as well, because at the end of that story lies our BGAN capability as well, which can do multi-megabit throughput as well. Less of an IoT device, more an IoT complement, but allowing us to provide together, ORBCOMM and Inmarsat together, a huge suite of products and solutions to meet the customer challenges out there. And I think it's by far the broadest set of products and solutions that anyone can bring to the IoT space, which is very exciting. But Inmarsat's contribution to this story is predominantly about our next generation network, the Inmarsat 6 series. The promise is to support not just all those installed devices today, those IDP devices today, but also OGX for at least another 15 to 20 years. And that actually is one of the things that sets apart the satellite industry in terms of its ability to support the global IoT sector. That in the terrestrial world, far too often, IoT customers are seeing their devices go dark because networks are upgraded, 2G, 3G, 4G, LTE, 5G, etc. By contrast, we're able to support fielded devices for decades, and that's a huge discriminator that ORBCOMM and Inmarsat bring to the market. And finally, I would say Inmarsat is very proud to have the chance to distribute ORBCOMM products and services through our own distribution channels globally to complement what ORBCOMM does. We trade in over 200 countries through a very mature distribution network in markets like maritime, aviation, government, enterprise verticals. And I think our distribution capabilities powerfully complement those of ORBCOMM and extend the available addressable market for OGX.
So in the context of that addressable market, can you talk a little bit about which applications and customer segments will find OGX most useful?
Sure. To start with, you have your typical, satellite customers out there, the stuff that's hard to reach, that, where cellular can't get to. And, an awful lot of marine and earth moving equipment and rail stuff and, assets that typically end up as far away from population as you can go. That's the historic satellite market, right? It's, it's a premium service that goes, to places that are hard to reach. But that's not the dream for OGX and where we want to go forward. The dream for OGX is to make this a mainstream product, not just in some of these tertiary areas, around the world. If you look at our ability for multi-mode service, for like dual mode services for our oil and gas business, putting it on, standard products as, when it kicks in as the unit leaves coverage, or in difficult times during hurricanes, keeping it as a backup for when one of these, end of life protocols end, like a 2G or a 3G. We want to, make this a mainstream product, and it was difficult to do because, historically, a dual mode application would double the price of the hardware and double the price of the service. And, it ended up being on, maybe 5 or 6% of our solution subs. And, since we've been able to, make the service so much more efficient from a satellite resource perspective and get so much of the cost out of the hardware, what is 8% more coverage buy you? Is it worth double? Well, that may be a tough sell, but is it, worth a 15 or 20% premium? That's a mainstream product. So, we've done an announcement for our satellite as an accessory product over the last month, which is the hardware aspect of, the agreement that we're talking about with Inmarsat today. It's out in the market. It's, being fielded, very exciting. But the idea is to bring satellite to the mainstream.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Mark said. I mean, if you look at the trends, the mega trends in the enterprise markets globally, without using too many buzzwords, it's about autonomy, artificial intelligence, digitalization, data and analytics, accessing remote nodes with real and gaining access to their real-time data and having a two-way capability to be able to digitalize your business. It's key today to remain competitive. It's also, by the way, a trend that in the world of COVID is accelerating as people realize they need to be able to have a more autonomous enterprise. So it's hard to think of an industry that isn't going to be transformed by the power of big data and digitalization. And what OGX brings, it brings three key things in that arena. It brings coverage, because of course with satellite, you cover the whole world, so you can have a one technology approach to the whole world, and it's always on. So your devices are always on, they're always in coverage. Secondly, it brings resilience, and this is, I think, where OGX is and ORBCOMM are so powerful. That dual mode means that satellite, whether it's primary or secondary, it's always providing tremendous resilience. And when that data is mission critical, you can't be off either because you're out of coverage or because one part of your network went dark. And the third thing it brings is longevity. Again, you can't be going out into the field and changing out these devices every couple of years. So the power of an asset that can be left out there for years and years at a time, and a network that will still be servicing these devices in 20, 25 years is a very powerful proposition as well. So yeah, we can look back in history and see many natural satellite markets that ORBCOMM and Inmarsat have served together for for half a dozen years now. But when we look forward, we see those characteristics of satellite expanding the market opportunity really dramatically. So I think you're going to see OGX going into many, many, many new markets and sectors to provide those kind of capabilities to a digital world.
And if I could just add one more thing to that, Tim, Inmarsat and ORBCOMM kind of started in this market, in ISAT M2M. I don't know if you remember that product, but that product was in the hundreds of bytes. And if you look back in the industry, hundreds of bytes meant locations and alarms, right? And then IDP, brought, the Inmarsat service into kilobytes of data, and kilobytes of data got you into, many more locations, and it also got you into diagnostics and larger reporting. And now OGX is going to get Inmarsat into the, into the megabyte range, of data. And think of the machines that, that adds, as well. So you went from, simple track and trace to, these diagnostics, and now we're moving on to these large machines, these solar turbines that need to be, monitored closer to real time, mining equipment. As the machine gets more sophisticated, so does the payload packet, and those are the markets as well that we're going to be able to go after.
Great. So can you talk a little bit more, Mark, about how OGX is going to work with the current IDP hardware and network services?
No change. No change. We're going to be able to do that behind the scenes over the air. So cool that, all of this work. And another collaboration that we did with Inmarsat is, if you look at the early IDP terminals, the ASIC that we built, used to be 200 discrete components, and that gets, built into, a $6 chip that is the core to our modem. And that is a project that we did together, a relatively large investment that was made over the, last 3 or 4 years. I mean, think of what, less components means to reliability, and what it does to, obviously cost. And, that kind of really changed, that really changed the dynamic of, you'll hear Rupert and I talk a lot about price points. We're believers in price points, and it enabled us to hit price points, but it also enabled us to make these changes over the air, where literally, if you want the, to upgrade from the IDP to the OGX service, you're talking about a 15-minute process over the air. You don't even have to touch your unit. Just make sure it sees the sky, has access to power. And, wow, is that, good for ORBCOMM in that we have tens of millions of dollars invested into IDP hardware that needs virtually no change. I mean, we're going to continue to develop it and make it cheaper and add more functionality. Don't get me wrong, but the basis of that modem needs no change, because you can upgrade it over the air.
Great. So you talked a little bit already about dual mode satellite terrestrial solutions. Can you just expand on their importance for the OGX target market?
Yeah, let me give you a great example. Our largest user of dual mode service is Walmart. And, think of what Walmart does. They distribute, food and goods across America. But these are essential goods, right? Think of who their customer base is. They operate, drugstores. They supply food. They supply milk. They're in, some, very crucial areas where, there's not, a ton of support there, for those populations. And, knowing where your product is, 90% of the time, doesn't work for Walmart. What works for Walmart is knowing where your trailers, knowing where your refrigerated assets, knowing where they are all the time. And then, as the rest of the world is trading out from 3G to, 4G, Walmart will get to it when they get to it, because they've got this, fully backward compatible, forward-looking, satellite service that's on board their assets. So, there is a great example of dual mode. Another great example of dual mode is the work that we do at InThink, where we're monitoring, oil and gas drilling sites and pipeline and other things, and dealing with some scary chemicals and some scary products out there. And you've got this very binary, in coverage or out of coverage at the work site, right? So if your route is out of coverage, for cellular, it's out of coverage forever, right? Or until they change the tower pattern over the next 30 years. And these units just continue to work. If you look at, Target or Kroger or some of these ORBCOMM customers, their refrigeration units need to work in the middle of a hurricane, right? Everything needs to work all the time, regardless of, what the backdrop is. And like I said, there's a price point for that. I don't know that it's 100% premium, what you've been asked to, to pay in the past, in terms of satellite. But, as I said, Rupert and I, we believe in price points. And, we think we can hit some price points to get these things into the mainstream.
Yeah, and I'd just like to, Tim, if I may, I'd just like to add to that. I completely buy into Mark's compelling vision of why these capabilities are coming together. I think our world, the world of this famous digital society where we have smart cities, for example, and smart transportation, smart agriculture, and smart mines, everything's smart. What that means is that connectivity becomes an absolutely mission-critical enabler of those networks. And we've got to reach levels of coverage and reliability and resilience that one network on its own is unlikely to meet. And we can't have our traffic networks go down because of congestion on a cellular network. It's a different kind of traffic congestion. So I think we're going to need networks of networks, what people call heterogeneous networks, with different technologies coming together to complement each other. And we completely buy into that vision as a satellite operator, and are very proud and happy to supply some of ORBCOMM's needs here, recognizing that we may not always be the primary source, we may be the backup, but it's the complementarity that you get, the uniqueness of bringing these capabilities together that delivers an outstanding outcome for the end customer, which in the end is all that matters.
Great. So, Rupert, can you expand a bit on how Inmarsat's planning to distribute ORBCOMM's offerings?
Yeah, well, we, as you know, we have two massive assets in Inmarsat beyond being a pure satellite operator. First of all, we have a very long-established, very much valued set of channel partners, over 600 companies trading in over 200 countries in the world, across our major market verticals of maritime aviation, government, and selected enterprise verticals like transportation, agriculture, energy, media, and mining. And we will be mobilizing that channel to go distribute OGX and IDP indirectly to market. That's been a very successful part of our relationship with ORBCOMM over the last 5 or 6 years, as I said, in terms of our subscriber count growth. And we think this is a very exciting part of our future as well. But more than that, we also have significant direct sales businesses in maritime and in government. And again, we'll be pushing ORBCOMM's products hard through our direct channels as well.
Great. And can you expand a little bit on how the OGX offering is going to impact Inmarsat's satellite network strategy and how it will benefit from your new I6 satellites?
Sure. I mean, at its most fundamental, we really believe that the next 20 years will be the era of IoT growth. And we're very, very confident that our global L-band network is perfectly placed to be able to support that evolution for service IoT by satellite. One of the reasons for that is because we can get down to extremely small, very, very low cost devices that can be self-powered for very long periods of time, like OGX. But we can also scale up to devices the size of a laptop. They're a lot more expensive, but can move very, very much bigger packets. And of course, we can also act as a hub by delivering anything, even our Ka-band services for backhaul. So I think we have the range and of capabilities within our L-band networks to support the IoT industry powerfully. This renewal of our relationship with ORBCOMM validates that and very much supports the way in which the Inmarsat 6 series, which will begin to launch next year, will be able to deploy their services. What we're seeing, of course, at Inmarsat is a migration of our broadband business from L-band to Ka-band, moving from the Inmarsat 4s and the Inmarsat 6s over to the GX series of satellites. That frees up capacity in our L-band networks and allows those networks to reorient towards these new IoT services. So I think we're already on that journey. Because obviously we made the decision around the Inmarsat 6 series 3 or 4 years ago now. But this new relationship with ORBCOMM is very much a proof point that we're both heading in the right direction.
Great. So obviously it's a very competitive market. Can you talk a little bit about how you believe that OGX is going to be superior to competitor platforms?
You know, it's funny you say it's a competitive market, but the competitors in this market haven't really changed. It's basically the same players that Rupert and I were on the stage with, an awful long time ago in terms of at the satellite show. The satellite market has moved in a bit of a different direction. And if you look at the new players in the satellite business, talking about, doing, L-bands, monitoring a trailer, being on a truck, those platforms aren't built for that. I got to look at the, the price points and the general size of the Starlink device over the last week, and they're looking at $500 just for the modem, and the router. It's really, really large. It's $99 a month, and it would last on the trailer about 8 seconds, in terms of battery power. So, I don't think that the market is heading in our direction, but I get the point of what you're saying. There is a place in this market, especially in IoT, where the upfront capex or the hardware that these resellers are looking for needs to be extremely low, but the the size of the data packet certainly needs to grow. And I think if we started this process where I showed Rupert a slide that shows modem cost on one axis and throughput on the other. And, we kind of showed like these bubble charts of, where all the competitors are. And that ratio of hardware cost to throughput is where this product really excels and is going to be really popular.
Yeah, I agree. And it's for Mark to talk in more detail about the competitive landscape because he's the tip of our spear into the market, if you like. But we know who the competition are. It's very evident who they are. And it takes a long time to get into this business. So you do see your competition coming. You can't just snap your fingers and be in this business next week. And trust is a huge factor as well because we're dealing with mission critical capabilities for very big companies that have brands to support and very nasty outcomes if things go wrong. So our track record is one of the things I think that makes us most competitive because people really trust Inmarsat and ORBCOMM to deliver, and that's priceless. But let's just look at the conventional things. You look at all the metrics: coverage, longevity, dependability, resilience, quality. We're number one. If you look at the product sets, you look at the getting down to the cheapest price points, best value price points, getting down to long endurance, getting up to big packet sizes. I think we win on every single one of those metrics. So we have the most scalable product set of any operator to meet almost any challenge that can be thrown at us by our end customer. And we can deliver those products at better value and higher outcomes than any of our competitors. So what we're talking about today is a genuine leapfrog by ORBCOMM and Inmarsat ahead of anybody else in a way that's going to be very, very hard for anyone to catch up to.
Great. So to sum up then, can you talk about what you think the impact of the OGX offering will be on the global satellite IoT industry when we come back maybe in 10 years' time to talk about another renewal of your contract and where we look to the future?
I think it's got, we have an awful lot of runway before we get on our next call. This thing's going to launch in 2022, but, I think, this world of, basically, satellite, being a significant premium to cellular and, being a product that you go to when, there's lack of terrestrial choices, is coming to an end. This is going to be a mainstream product that hits price points. And, I can't emphasize that enough. That is a big, major change in the, in the business. And then on top of that, one of the ways that this agreement is different with Inmarsat from the former agreement, in the former agreement, we kind of co-owned IDP. And we kind of went in separate directions. They went and sold it, and we went and sold it. And, there was some replication around, what we were doing on hardware and how we supported developers and how customer service came in. And, as we look at this product today, there's one offering. It's the same hardware and it's the same support. And, we don't need to replicate, all of those heads that support this product. And think of what that does for the, for the scaling of these two businesses as we kind of unite along, this one platform. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I do think we will be moving quicker. We'll be moving much quicker as a result of the refinement of our business model together. But when we talk about the impact of today's announcement on the global satellite IoT industry, I think it's quite simply the right product arriving at the right time to play into what will be a global IoT revolution in the years to come. I think what we're creating here, I believe, will be the gold standard reference platform for IoT by satellite for the next decade. And on the back of that, we will dramatically grow our businesses and dramatically diversify our business into a whole new slew of verticals as IoT becomes the norm for global enterprise and government activities in the 21st century. So I think this is a very exciting day for both companies, but it's also a more exciting day for all those who are looking for IoT solutions out there to be part of the 21st century digital society.
Great. Well, thank you very much. It's been a great chat, and I've learned a lot, and I hope the audience has too.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for your questions. Very stimulating.